Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Detroit Lions handed the Minnesota Vikings their first loss of the season. Also, will there be any playmakers left for a playoff run for the 49ers? And the Packers defense stifled C.J. Stroud. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll be started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
On Sunday, the Detroit Lions did what no other team had been able to do so far this season in 5 tries. They beat the Minnesota Vikings, a 31-29 absolute thriller. Matt Derry from Locked On Lions joins me now. And Matt, Jared Goff was one of the stories coming in. How would he handle the Brian Flores defense that has beguiled him for most of his career? Easy answer, 22 of 25 for 280 and 2 touchdowns. He was phenomenal on Sunday. What changed for this Detroit Lions team?
Well, I'll say this, Pete. Last year, and Brian Flores has done a whale of a job as Vikings defensive coordinator, but in the 2 games at the end of last season that the Lions played the Vikings, Detroit did a pretty good job in moving the football. I thought it'd be a little bit different today, but yet there was a success again. And I just think Goff was poised. They went down 10-0. The first 5 minutes of the game was a complete bleep show. And then the Lions just kind of grabbed their composure, relaxed. And it was Goff, it was Jahmyr Gibbs, and it was Amon-Ra St. Brown, kind of guys he's relied upon. The offensive line settled down a bit. Goff started to see some things at the line of scrimmage, make some checks, some calls, and kind of beat Flores at his own game, and it worked out for the Lions to get that road win.
Jared Goff the last 3 weeks has been on an absolute heater. They go for 42 points against the Seahawks, 47 points. That Seahawks game, by the way, that was the one he went 18 for 18 in. 315 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Cowboys where they score 47. And now this one, I started to hear the talk on the Talking Head shows, Matt Derry. Jared Goff, MVP buzz. Is that crazy?
Last 3 weeks, he's looked the part. I mean, he's been fantastic. He doesn't miss throws. That's what makes no sense. I mean, Pete, you're going going 18 for 18 in a game against a pretty good Seahawks defense. And then today you only missed 3. Pretty darn impressive. One of them was tipped at the line. He's in a nice rhythm right now. That offensive line is giving him time to throw. And even when he is pressured, he's stepping up and making plays. And, you got Amon-Ra, Jamison Williams, who's kind of nowhere to be found today. But a guy like Tim Patrick has stepped up. Yeah. Khalif Raymond, Sam Laporta. It's a nice blend of run and pass. And it does help with Ben Johnson at the controls to have David Montgomery and Gibbs behind you so you can play that play action game.
Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 carries for $116 and 2 touchdowns, and this one almost 8 yards a carry, broke that long one as well. This is the blueprint, right? If you're the Lions, after losing Aiden Hutchinson, there are going to be games against the best teams, against the Packers, against the 49ers, against these best teams in the NFC, where they're going to have to outscore them. Any concern, though, about the defense? 29 for the Vikings. In this one, again, no Aiden Hutchinson for the rest of the year in Detroit.
Well, remember, one of those 6 of those points were scoop and score on defense. Sure. So really, they gave up 23. They buckled down and Reichert made some field goals, and he's been great for Minnesota. No, I really like the way the secondary played today, and I mentioned this on Locked On Lions. Didn't hear Terrion Arnold's name much today. That's because you didn't have to. They weren't throwing at him. He played really well, and they held Justin Jefferson finally below 100 yards in a game. Issue still, though, is like you mentioned. Edge rush. I mean, the Lions got 4 sacks today, but 3 came from linebackers on a blitz. So who's going to get home from the edge? That was not answered again today. I still think they're going to make a move before November 5th.
Yeah, almost 6.5 yards per carry for this for this Minnesota Vikings run game. That's going to be a problem as well. And that's I think the hidden Aiden Hutchinson thing. This has been an elite run defense so far this season, but when you lose someone like that, this is where those hidden yards can come from. If all of a sudden those yards that were going for 2 yards or 3 yards are going for 5 yards and 6 yards, you're making it harder on your defense to play. And Aaron Glenn is having to make these adjustments.
He is. And, obviously the game in 2 weeks at Green Bay is going to be one to circle. Aaron Jones broke off a run early in the game that was just a complete breakdown. So that was part of that yards per carry. But other than that, I still like the way this defense is playing. But am I concerned about the edge? Absolutely. You have to be. But they're finding ways to win, and they sit atop the division, at least for now, at 5-1.
Is this an any questions sort of, hey, we're the best team in the NFC performance to you?
It looked good. I mean, this division, like you, as you know, Pete, because you're living in it with me.
Brutal. It's brutal.
It's unbelievable. It really is. And the Lions are going to lose some games, but they've weathered some storms. They've got a target on their back. People remember they were in the NFC Championship last year, but the composure and what they're doing up front on both lines, really, the guys on the interior played well again today. McNeil's been good. Reeder, Onwuzurike. Yeah. So you win up front and you find a way. And that secondary is much improved from a year ago.
Stay up to date on the Detroit Lions all year long by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Lions on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, the 49ers are in a dire situation with their playmakers hurt all over the field. Before we get to that, the Seahawks got a dominant road win in the ATL. If you're a big NFL fan, and let's be honest, who isn't? And you're looking for a big return, look no further than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live, play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Plus, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And you can take aim at the pair of Monday night football games. Yes, I said the pair. The early kickoff tonight features the Ravens traveling to face the Bucs. FanDuel likes the Ravens on the road by 3.5. 45 minutes later, the late game is the Cardinals hosting the Chargers. FanDuel again likes the road team, the Chargers, favored by 1.5. So what are you waiting for? That's FanDuel.com to get started. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories in sports without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app or on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Seahawks lit up the scoreboard against the Falcons.
Look, the bottom line is when we were going into this game, the Falcons, they were number one in the NFL for the fewest explosive plays given up, or fewest 20-plus yard gains. They had only given up 8 of them in the first 6 games combined. The Seahawks almost equaled that today with 6 such plays. One of them came from Jackson Smith and Jigba throwing up a prayer in a double coverage and gave a heart attack up and got it. Yeah, like Smith and Jigba said after the game, like when he called that play, like I was going to throw it no matter what. And you know what? YOLO, man. I guess that's the way that he was looking at it. But that was one of the explosives. They had 6 of them today. But as Geno Smith said after the game, I even asked him about this. The ability to have balance early in the game. This Falcons defense was ranked 26th in rushing yards allowed, just ahead of the Seahawks coming into this game. So this was the matchup where you had to start moving the line of scrimmage and you had to start creating some opportunities for Ken Walker III and Zach Charbonnet. And Walker was fantastic.
In what was one of the most entertaining WNBA finals ever, the Liberty rose to glory for the first time in their nearly 30-year history. Defense reigned supreme on both sides of the floor. The Liberty shot just 30%, including a 1-for-19 performance from Sabrina Ionescu. Breanna Stewart hit big free throws late in regulation and again in overtime, this after missing 2 late free throws. It was the first do-or-die WNBA Finals game to go to overtime, and the Liberty earned their first ever championship. On an otherwise tough night for New York sports, the Liberty delivered. The Commanders embarrassed the Panthers, but they did so without Jaden Daniels, though initial reporting on his injury is encouraging.
Domination in some ways. That score actually doesn't even demonstrate how dominant the Washington Commanders really were across all 3 phases of this football game. But the biggest thing that everybody's going to be talking about coming out of this game tonight, of course, is the injury suffered by rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. And you know, to some extent, it's good news that people kind of around here kind of joking like, oh, Jaden's probably not going to win Rookie of the Week this week because of the fact that he went out after the first drive of the series, ends in a field goal. Even if it would have ended in a touchdown, Jaden Daniels clearly not going to be a nominee for Rookie of the Week this week. At least we don't expect, unless the rookies around the league kind of put up some stinkers, right? Because Jane Daniels leaves after that first series of the game for the Washington Commanders, the first offensive series, I should say, for the Washington Commanders. It was the actual third series of the game. Now, up front, bottom line up front, I'm going to tell you the vibe that I get is that it's not that serious, that it's not going to be something that's like season ending or anything like that. And in fact, I don't get the vibe that it's a rib injury that may even cost him next week against the Chicago Bears. From what I'm told during the broadcast, they even said they were told or they had the inclination or the feeling that the Washington Commanders could have put him back into this game if they needed to. But with the game well in hand and the game flow, obviously going firmly in the Washington Commanders' direction, didn't feel the need to, obviously didn't have the need to, so they rolled with Marcus Mariota.
Just like it happened in the Super Bowl, the San Francisco 49ers fell to the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday, 28-18. Brock Purdy, 3 interceptions, and this one, and the big news coming out of the game is the future health of Brandon Ayuk. As we were recording here, there is a fear of a long-term injury, fear of an ACL tear. Not confirmed as of this very moment. Brian Peacock from Locked On 49ers, and of course, Peacock and Williamson joins me now. And Brian, this is an offense that wants to push the ball down the field. They want to get all of these weapons involved, and weren't able to do it on Sunday. What happened?
Well, most of the weapons weren't there, which is a problem. You kind of put that on the shelf. Speaking of the shelf, Christian McCaffrey's been on the shelf for a while.
Yeah.
Deebo Samuel had an illness that he woke up with and was not really involved in this game. And then Brandon Ayuk had the right knee injury that looks like it might be a torn ACL. They're crossing their fingers. They'll get good luck when we see the imaging there. But beyond that, the San Francisco 49ers, and I guess I think I have to agree with and believe in the analysis from the 49ers head coach, Kyle Shanahan, said we got our asses kicked today. And that's what it was. They played 4 bad quarters of football, especially on offense. And right now, Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs, has ownership over Kyle Shanahan. And I don't think we can dispute that anymore. Now, the 49ers weren't at full power, but it's been a struggle for Kyle Shanahan against the Chiefs multiple times. And it was actually more difficult for him this time than it was in the Super Bowl. And so this was the 49ers trying to come back from a 2-score lead instead of giving up a 2-score lead against the Kansas City Chiefs like they did twice in the Super Bowl. Yeah. The 49ers weren't good. The offense was bad for 4 quarters. The defense was really good early. I think they ran out of gas. And then at the end, Mahomes made a couple. Look, there was 5 total interceptions thrown in this game.
It was not a clean game by any means.
Brock Purdy wasn't worse than Mahomes' 44 passer rating and no touchdowns and 2 interceptions would have looked really bad, but he did make a couple of plays. I'm fighting with some Chiefs fans about my take on the whole sideline thing where he gets the defense to stop chasing him and then keeps running, and then people act like he's Barry Sanders or something because
it's a little cheap. It's a little cheap.
I don't love that little loophole, but good on him because you see he's playing by the rules, and those are the rules that everyone's playing by on the field. And so Mahomes made some plays when he needed to. The 49ers did not make any plays really the entire game. The defense ran out of gas, stopped being able to stop the run and Kareem Hunt at the end of that game. And the Chiefs ended up cruising to victory.
If Spags owns Kyle Shanahan, that's got to be valuable property in the Bay Area. I mean, we know what the costs are in the Bay Area on property. So,
Los Gatos, yeah. If you're shopping in Kyle Shanahan's neighborhood, then you're in multi-millionaire territory there if you have ownership of that one.
Yeah. So this is going to be, I think, the question that a lot of us had. And I will admit, I am someone who has come around on I think Brock Purdy is pretty good train. But he did not look pretty good in this one. And if you're the kind of person who is naturally cynical about Brock Purdy, someone who is like, hey, he's got Kyle Shanahan and the Avengers to throw to, you look at this game and you go, hey, no Avengers. And he looks like Captain America before he got the serum at the beginning of that one. And so what do you say to those people?
Well, I would say kind of what I just said. Patrick Mahomes looked bad too.
Yeah.
He just looked less bad than Brock.
This 49ers defense is not as good as the Chiefs defense. This Chiefs defense is as good as any defense in the league. And the 49ers have not been through 5 weeks. Right.
And so when you watch the highlights, you're going to see the Chiefs won, and you're going to see the scramble from Patrick Mahomes. And to be honest with you, putting his shoulder down at the goal line was more impressive, I think, of a physical feat of Patrick Mahomes. You're going to see that and you'll be like, oh, Mahomes was awesome in this game. Mahomes was bad in this game. And but is any quarterback good in the NFL anymore? I have no idea. But Purdy's been really good 5 out of 7 weeks. He's had a couple of stinkers. This was absolutely a stinker. I think when we talk about Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy, and you kind of start putting them together in the 49ers passing game, and this is not necessarily a Brock Purdy thing, and I would probably put it more on Shanahan than anything. Shanahan likes to have balance. And when you are behind and you have to throw to come back and win, his teams are not good at doing that. And it's not a Brock Purdy thing. So I think that's where the 49ers were. And then when you're trying to throw to Ronnie Bell and he's maybe running a different route than you think you're going to run, then it turns into being an interception rather than just an incompletion, or rather than just a little bit more of a difficult task. And it became an impossible task for the 49ers Sunday.
Stay up to date on the San Francisco 49ers all year long by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On 49ers on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Packers aren't going anywhere anytime soon, and their defense is a big reason why. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. For all the Jordan Love hype, the young wide receivers, and Matt LaFleur, the Green Bay Packers have plenty to talk about, but it was the defense that won the day, as I pointed out on Locked On Packers. The story of this game is the Green Bay Packers defense. I understand Jordan Love, and we'll get to the Brandon McManus of it all. They win. You know that. This is a story about defense. The first completion for a conversion on third down was late in the fourth quarter. Now, it was the third down conversion, but it was their first of the game, the Houston Texans. The Packers had absolutely beguiled, just bewildered and battered and bruised CJ Stroud. He finishes this game 10 of 21 for 86 yards. The Houston Texans offense held to 3.4 yards per play, 4 of 13 on third down, under 200 total yards of offense. If not for 3 turnovers, this is an ass kicking. That's what it is. 16 points came off Packers turnovers. 2 touchdowns and a field goal came off the Jordan Love pair of interceptions, and then a gobsmacking turnover with a punt, which looked for a while like it might be the punt. But when you go back and you watch, and I'm going to do this on NFL Pro, and I will probably write about it for The Leap this week, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. On third down, Jeff Hafley just said, we are going to show 6+ man pressure every time. Every time. And sometimes we're going to bring it, and sometimes we're not. And sometimes it's only going to be a 4-man pressure. Xavier McKinney on the second drive gets a 4-man pressure sack where he comes clean off the edge. There had to have been 4 or 5 times on third down where the Packers scheme up a free rusher on third down. And it's not just miscommunication. It's, we don't know. We don't know how we're going to sort this out. And you're playing tricks on the protections. Okay, we're going to full slide here when really they're only sending 2 guys from that side, and you have the extra coming off the backside. Jeff Hafley was brilliant in this football game. He was spectacular in this football game. And I understand the run game got gashed a little bit, but it seems worse than it is. 32 carries for $142 in this game. Joe Mixon, for a couple chunk runs in this game, only averaged 4.6 yards per carry. He actually averaged more yards per carry than CJ Stroud averaged per attempt. If you do that every game, you're going to win. And finally, the Giants got boat raced on Sunday by the Eagles, and Daniel Jones got benched. Down 28-3, Brian Daboll went to Drew Lock for what Daboll said was a spark he was looking for. He did confirm that Jones is still the starter for now. After Lock was similarly uninspiring, said Jones of the situation, I was frustrated, didn't like it, obviously. I think Giants fan would agree. If asked about the Daniel Jones experience as a whole, they'd probably say the same thing. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, will the Baker Mayfield magic continue against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.